Crews in Northern California are scrambling to clean up after a storm brought deadly flooding, high winds and landslides over the weekend. At least one person has died. CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti is in Elk Grove, California, one of the worst affected areas.
It's been a race to higher ground in Northern California after a massive storm brought severe downpours this holiday weekend. Many residents in Sacramento County have been ordered to evacuate after the historic rains breached at least 2 levees. Authorities calling the situation incredibly dangerous.
And I told my husband, no, I'm not safe. I don't feel safe.
There are growing concerns that swollen rivers could continue to rise this morning after they overflowed onto nearby roadways. First responders rescued at least a dozen stranded drivers from the air and through the floodwaters that turned deadly for at least one person near the town of Wilton.
A person was found deceased who had been trying to drive through the water.
Across Northern California, neighborhoods have been submerged while landslides blocked roadways. Powerful wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour downed trees, causing power outages for tens of thousands. In the Bay Area, San Francisco's iconic Fisherman's Wharf experienced its wettest day in nearly 30 years, and the Oakland Zoo will remain closed for at least the next 2 weeks after a huge sinkhole there collapsed at its entrance.
This is crazy. I've never seen it so deep here.
The atmospheric river brought more than 8 feet of snow to the Sierra Nevadas, which shut down roads and even closed many ski resorts. As the system heads east through the Rockies, avalanche warnings are in effect after a skier was killed near Breckenridge, Colorado. And another avalanche was caught on camera from downtown Telluride this weekend.
And power outages back here in California could continue on for days, if not longer, as the threat continues into this week. Lana, we're expecting more rain later today. Meteorologists saying that rain will become heavy and there could also be more snow starting Wednesday.
More rain, more snow. Jonathan, what does all of this mean for people who were evacuated? When might they be able to return to their homes?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the home behind me is probably a good example. This is one of many in this neighborhood completely flooded out. The residents here, we're told, along with hundreds of others, were part of that mandatory evacuation. Some got the call to evacuate yesterday. We spoke with one woman who lives in this area. She is now in a trailer parked in a parking lot by a church with her dogs and her cats. She's lived here for 20 years. She's told me this isn't the first time it's flooded. A few years ago, a flood not as extensive as this took 2 weeks before the water fully subsided. With more rain in the forecast, you can imagine more water potentially clogging these streets. So it's going to be a long time forward for these people who are right now without a home and in some cases sheltering, like this one woman in a trailer.
Some of these images that we're seeing, Jonathan, are so devastating. And then you combine that with the sinkholes that we saw in your package. Tell us, what are the road conditions like now?
Yeah, you can imagine when this atmospheric river swept through, you had a lot of flooding, you had landslides, mudslides, a lot of roads, even in this area, you still can't get through. We actually went to the area where one of the levees was breached over the weekend, and we had to stop multiple times because there were roadblocks, a lot of water, a lot of homes submerged. It's going to take a while. They have to wait for the water to essentially subside, to clear out. And we have seen that start to happen, but it's not happening fast enough. And again, when you have another storm coming and when you've got snowmelt as well, it could continue to rise for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and with it continuing to rise, I don't know if this question is premature, but I'm wondering, Jonathan, if there's any estimate at all as to the cost of this significant damage.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the damage is significant, and flooding is a very costly kind of natural disaster for people to deal with. How much? Tens of millions, I would estimate, but again, I think it's too soon to tell. And again, we have another round of this storm, so there's a lot of people impacted, a lot of property impacted. This is a rural community, so most of the flooding is happening out in farmland. That is perhaps the good news, but those crops, what impact that could have on them. You have a lot of orchards here that are currently flooded under feet of water. That's going to be something that is going to have to be assessed when it dries out.
All right, Jonathan, well, we are thinking about everybody there. Thank you.